All right. Daman, welcome to Social Impact Power Chats.
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So as you know, these Power Chats they're quick. We get in, so we're going to go straight into our first question, which is, how did you get into social impact? And you can define that any way that you want.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question. I love the question. When I was actually getting into the field of social impact, I myself was listening to podcasts, I was watching interviews, because I was trying to understand what is the path you take to become a social impact director, VP, whatever it is. In my career, like my whole career was based around helping. It was about helping my community. Historically, indigenous people in Canada and across Turtle Island in the US as well have been marginalized and overrepresented in all the wrong spaces. And so really, I started my career in social services with a focus on helping my community connect to culture through ceremony, traditional arts, and land-based practices. And so I worked in the social sector for about 7 years in health, child welfare, and family services. And so that's kind of where I got my starting point. But, Manitoba is well known in the province. Everyone knows about their goals and their social mission to give back. For myself, I grew up seeing moccasins on mom, on dad, and I was actually gifted my first pair of Manitoba moccasins during my first year of Sundance, which is a very sacred ceremony. But it actually provided me a more meaningful connection to the brand that was through my house, that was through ceremony, and now it's actually in my day-to-day work. And like I said, it was always around helping, and so it kind of happened organically. It was like in 2021 that I actually learned about the position of the Director of Social Impact at Manitoba. And what I was attracted to as well was actually being able to look and work under the founder, Sean McCormick. Spending time with him, understanding where his vision came from. I always say, like, Manitoba's social mission is built within indigenous values. And it's the same thing that we're taught as kids when we go and harvest anything from the land. One, we only take what we need, and we're always taught to give back something in return as a sign of respect. And so Manitoba, we make indigenous footwear with 1,000 years of design. It's some of the most warmest, comfortable, durable shoes. You buy one and you have them forever. But because it's from the indigenous community, we want to make sure that we're giving back. And so that's really where the social mission had started. That's really how I came to be. And that's why I'm here today. So just very excited to share. And I love the first question. So thank you, Emily.
Amazing. So, I think you and I, the reason we met is because a member of the Ethos team was reading about Manitoba, reading about your products and your B-Corp status and all of the amazing work. And, she alerted me to what you all were doing and said, this is an incredible brand and we need to have them on Social Impact Power Chats. And I started looking at the website and just fell in love with all of the ways that you all build this work. So you are, part of the leadership team that is doing the work of the work, right? So if you could just explain a little bit about your day job, what are some of the things that you're responsible for, programming, product, etc., and kind of how you roll up to this bigger sense of purpose in the company.
No, that's a very question. So, like, in my current role as a vice president of social impact at Manitoba, my primary focus is steering our commitment to create a positive impact with indigenous communities to ensure that we're making a real difference. So I say, like, we're accountable to give back, and so it's such a fulfilling job because you get to do all the great work. But how do we gauge our success and ensure that we're doing a great job is we actually have something that we call our 4 pillars of impact. And each one of these 4 pillars of impact talk about our commitment and something that we're currently doing within our business model to support the indigenous community. And so the first one is art and action, and really that's the collaboration that our product team works with indigenous artisans to bring some of those designs from nations, individuals, to tell the story of indigenous artisans from across Turtle Island. And there's so many, we'll never run out of enough stories to tell. And so each year we work with different artisans and we create that opportunity to tell that story, to create awareness of that nation and just the beauty And so it's just really building the connection with the consumer as well, to know that each purchase is going back to give back to that community. The second pillar is education for change. It's really our initiative to preserve moccasin, mukluk, and gauntlet making. And I always joke around with people that come up to HQ and they take a tour. I say, it's an office during the day, but in the evening it's actually a classroom. We invite indigenous artisans, students, indigenous and non-indigenous, to come learn about the traditional arts that has sustained our people for thousands of years. And so it's a beautiful way to kind of interact, to learn, to build relationships, but to come together and walk on a path together as well. And so that doesn't only happen at our headquarters. At our retail stores once a month, we do the exact same thing. We host in-store workshops where people can come and learn about these traditional crafts. Come meet some of the artisans behind these beautiful designs. Come meet some friends and just have an experience that you can remember and carry forward. Our third pillar of impact is a trade for community, or our indigenous market. So I encourage everybody listening to this call, go on www.manitoba.ca or .com. There's going to be a tab on the top that says the indigenous market. We support indigenous artisans from across Turtle Island, the US, Canada, to share some of their artwork, and 100% of the profits go back to the artisans. We actually don't collect anything from it. We want to support indigenous entrepreneurs to create awareness about their brand, about some of the things that they're doing, and support their entrepreneurial vision or goals that they may have. For indigenous people, we might be the first in our family to start a business, and we might be navigating waters that we're unfamiliar with. And we want to lend our expertise to anybody so that they don't make the same mistakes. It's funny because Sean would always say, like, if I had a mentor when I first started the business, I would have saved a lot of money and a lot of time. And so I'm super grateful for him, because essentially any idea that I have, I toss by him, and it's always a learning opportunity. Our fourth pillar of impact is sovereignty through leadership, which is really our commitment to implement the TRC calls to action. And so for those of you who are unfamiliar with the United Nations Declarations of Rights of Indigenous People, it was adopted by both the Canadian and US government as a way to advance reconciliation. Here in Canada in 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Center actually made 94 calls to action for every sector to do something to advance reconciliation. And really it's about educating, creating employment opportunities, and looking to consult and work with indigenous communities anytime there's an economic project or opportunity. So we share the knowledge, we share the benefit, and we grow together. So those are the four pillars of impact. Sorry, it was a little bit long there, but there's a lot of stuff to celebrate. The other thing I want to just mention related to the four pillars of impact that I would put under sovereignty through leadership. In this last year, Manitoba became B-Corp certified. And so that's something that's new for the company. Beautiful framework, but just to be a part of a community that's using their business for good, but really just looking at how we operate, ethically and morally responsibly in all of our ESG practices. So we're just very fortunate, very lucky, and looking forward to the future that Manitoba has to continue to build on the impact that we're currently making.
It's amazing. And this comes through in everything you say that you do, and the fact that you're actually doing it, right? That it's verified, and you have all of these pillars, and you have a certification like B Corp to have a third party validator that says, yes, like this is the real. Not everybody listening, if I had to guess, is going to have as much depth as you just described, right? So I'm wondering if you can share a learning, or, hey, like, if somebody's listening and they just want to get started, like they just want to jump off and get going on, something that they feel inspired by what you just shared.
Yeah.
What are some lessons learned, or just like some encouragement, some coaching that you could share with a listener of just how to kind of get rolling in this work, if that's really where they're hoping to go?
So first of all, for everybody who's listening already, congratulations. You're taking the first step in the direction needed to make that positive impact. Really, it's about creating awareness, learning opportunities, networking. We're all human. We don't know everything, but as a community, we can create a change. That's the great thing about B Corp, I'd like to say. But it's a great thing about things and platforms like this is, we're creating awareness, we're sharing ideas, and we're trying to move in a good direction together. But in terms of like supporting the indigenous community, I would say remember they're the first peoples of the land, and they're actually one of the most marginalized peoples of the land, often overrepresented in all the wrong places. And so I would really encourage everyone to take time to learn about the indigenous community. And I'm not saying that as a knock to say like you don't know everything, but I'm a young professional, and growing up in my career, this is something that we didn't learn in high school, grade school. It was something that you learned in university. And, understanding the history of indigenous people, if you want to work with indigenous people and collaborate with indigenous people, are very important. One of the things that we don't do at Manitobah is we say, this is how we want to help. It's all done through collaboration. And so everything we do is very deliberate. And so I always like to say within our social mission, it's very relational. And the way that we work is very relational. We want to create an environment that provides a sense of belonging so that they can be a part of our identity, their identity, embrace their identity, master their skills, and at the end of it all, it's about generosity and giving back to the community and acts of service. And so for myself, if you guys are looking for reading material, I would say UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration Rights of Indigenous People, and the TRC Calls to Action.
Amazing. And we will include all of these links when we, check the links in the post.
Yeah.
Amazing. I always say for impact work to be good, it has to start with a question mark, right? Like you can't go in and assert that you know everything. You have to be learning and have the community that you're looking to partner with inform the work. So it makes a ton of sense, and it's so important to say. So because this is a power chat, I feel like we could talk for an hour, and I wish we had an hour. But we are focused on keeping these, quick listens for busy professionals. So we're already at our last question, which I can't believe.
Okay.
But it's really about the future and you looking forward. So, if you had a crystal ball and, you imagine kind of what this work is going to look like 5, 10, whatever you want, 50 years going forward, like what do you see as trends? What are you looking for as you see this work continue to flourish?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I think a crystal ball is, you're going to see more indigenous professionals, more indigenous fashion experts sitting at the tables, offering pieces of advice. And so my crystal ball is that, more indigenous people see themselves reflected in the executive team, middle management, or in places that we haven't normally been. I think from an indigenous perspective, to understand sustainability and the way we have a relationship with the land and all living things is a beautiful way to live and just to be respectful. And so I think as people begin to learn about indigenous history, some of our ideologies or philosophies, some of the teachings that have been passed on for generations, I think there's a lot of value not only for us as indigenous people, but as professionals, companies, and people who are contributing to the economy overall. Indigenous people are starting businesses 5 times faster than any other race right now, and we're one of the fastest growing populations. So get familiar. We're very friendly, so don't be scared. Feel free to reach out, make friends, ask questions. It's just about building a more inclusive community and a better community for the next generation, for your kids, for my kids, for all of our kids. So
let it be so. That sounds like where we want to be as humans in the world. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us for a power chat, and can't wait to watch you and what you're doing professionally, and also what Manitobah and the brand is doing for many, many years to come. So thank you, and we will hopefully talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Emily. Thank you for having us.